and welcome to another evening of frank conversation on Hard Copy here from our Abuja studios. I'm Kayla Megwa. Make no mistake about it, Nigeria is at war. A war against terrorism, against insurgency, against banditry. Nigeria's security is the focus of our conversation tonight. There are knocks and kudos, and sometimes the knocks seem to come from situations that outshine the kudos. Every 2 weeks, the Office of the Chief of Defense Staff gives us an update from the various theaters of war across the country. However, does this translate to a safer country? Because at the same time these successes are being reeled out, we hear of incessant kidnappings, whether it is the recently killed Emir of Gobir, Alhaji Isa Bawa, or the registrar in the Department of Ophthalmology at the National Eye Center in Kaduna, Dr. Ganiat Popola, who is still in captivity after 8 months, or the remaining Chibok girls, our remaining Dapchi girl, Leah Sharibu. With every release of hostages is the very real call for the kidnappings not to have happened in the first place, and most importantly, the ransom conversation. My guest, helping us navigate Nigeria's security situation on Hard Copy today, is the Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba. Major General Edward Buba, welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you for inviting me.
In fact, welcome to Channels Television. This is the first time we're having you live on Channels. We're always having your recordings. Welcome.
Very much so. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's get down to it.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you, just from your perspective, I've attended your briefings so many times, but we'll get to those numbers. But in your view, as Director of Defense Media Operations, is Nigeria safer for the Nigerian in 2024 than it was, let's say, in 2022?
A very good question. I'll start by saying that from my professional knowledge, we are in a very difficult, challenging security situation in the country. And it is so unique to us. Our situation is so unique in the sense that the security situation that we're faced with in the country is self-inflicted. We have brought it upon ourselves.
How so?
If we look at how it started, say about a decade ago, 2009, I think, thereabout, we had the issue of Boko Haram with Shekau. And then from there, it fanned out to the northwest. From the northwest, it fanned out to the north central, like we have today. Then we have the issue of indigenous people of Biafra and the Eastern Security Network cohorts in the southeast. And then we have also the issue of oil theft, which is going on also in the in the Niger Delta area. Now, when you look at all these situations across the country, these are all threats. We have troops on the ground fighting simultaneously in all these locations. We have theaters all over these locations, fighting, in all these locations. Now, back to 2009, when it all started in the Northeast, it's no longer news that we grappled with this situation at the beginning. Now, we grappled with the situation at the beginning, firstly, because our training was to fight conventional armies, not non-state actors. And so the equipment and several things that we had in the inventory was tailored towards fighting a conventional force. And then we were now meeting a non-state actor. When you're fighting a conventional force, you know that the ground is the battleground. Is the terrain. The ground is the terrain, if I may use the military language. But when you're fighting a non-state actor, like we're doing today, the terrain is the population. It took us time to really understand that. But back to your question, from then till now, I will say that the military has grown in capabilities, starting from our motivations to our right recruitment that we do today, to our training, to our equipment holdings, to our deployment. In fact, we have narrowed the gap between commanders that have battle experience and those that don't have battle experience, which was also a problem at the beginning. So now, when a commander in the field is talking to the military high command, because all those in the military high command have been in the field, they understand what the commander is saying.
So better organization of the military in the war against terror.
Yes.
I'm talking about translating that to the safety of the Nigerian. Is Nigeria safer for the Nigerian now than it was, I said 2022?
Yeah, definitely.
It is safer?
It is safer today than it was back then, because we have a better understanding of how to go about this fight. Now, in this fight, the prerequisite for the military is to defeat the terrorist, and dismantle his military capabilities, his administrative capabilities, and his logistics capabilities. And in doing so, we go after their center of gravity. We seek them, finding them, seek them out, flush them, destroy them. And in doing that, we've prioritized going after their commanders, going after their leaders, going after their foot soldiers, and taking them off the battlefield. This is what we've concentrated on, and we know that the culminative effort in doing this gives us the win over the terrorist. I have said severally in the course of my briefing, you see something, you say something, and I go further to say that more people know things than people who see. So you know something, you see something, you say something, and we will do something about it.
I mean, it's a complicated, situation, like you said earlier.
Like I said, it's complex.
Because I was at one of the briefings where you were talking. I think it was the chief of defense staff that spoke after to journalists, and one of the things that they were talking about was empowering the people. And he said it there, but he said it many times. While we're fighting an asymmetrical warfare and we're doing kinetic, the non-kinetic bit of this warfare needs to be addressed. And at the time, he was with the Niger State governor was standing right next to him. I think the helicopter crash had just happened, and there were a lot of speculation. So when it comes to kinetic bits, which is what the military is doing, on the non-kinetic area, would you say that the Nigerian government is doing what it should to empower people? That way, when you tell me to supply you petrol as a terrorist and you give me some money, I'll tell you, no, I don't need your money.
Okay, winning a war, and this kind of war in particular, the world over, is destroying the enemy's will to fight. When you destroy the enemy's will to fight, you've won the war. Now, how do you destroy the enemy's will to fight? There is the kinetic aspect, which is done by the military. And then there is the non-kinetic aspect, which is 70% of what is required. We had a protest recently. We saw what happened in different parts of the country. Now, from what we saw, you could tell that the recruitment base, if there was a push for it, I will just say this. Terrorism finds a home in a place where people are desperate and poverty-stricken. I think that says it all. So we keep on taking out the terrorists day in, day out. Day in, day out. If I do the summation for this year, it's well over 5,000. Do you understand? But we're still getting people killed even now as we speak. But is that enough? It's not enough. We must make sure that that situation, the conditions that allow them easily go into this terrorism is changed. We must change the conditions. And that is where now the issue of taking care of challenges of poverty, and all that comes in, and it goes back to what I said at the very beginning, that we're faced with a very challenging security situation, and ours is very unique from around the world because it's self-inflicted.
Many Nigerians hear the military say we have won the war on terror. It's a phrase. I've never heard you say that war, those particular words. I've never heard you say it.
Yeah.
But let's get that out in the open. You are the director of Defense Media Operations. Categorically, can you tell the Nigerian people that the military is winning the war against terror? Especially with the economic indices that you just gave to us right now.
Yeah. I would say that we want a situation whereby insecurity and the terrorism that is faced in the country will be a thing of the past. We want a situation in which Nigerians will be able to move around freely in this country without fear of anything. We want a situation in which our country will be able to prosper once again, devoid of the security challenges that we are faced with. Sadly, we are not there yet. But from all the indices that I've put forward, it is clear that we are on an upward trajectory to achieving that. We are in a better situation today than in any previous time. And we will get there because the terrorists exist for the sake of war, and for the sake of peace, we will keep killing them until we achieve the peace.
Let's take a trip to Zamfara, because you actually addressed the media at some point about safety and security in Zamfara state. What's the update now? Because at the time, there was a whole lot of conversation about how the governor and the Minister of State for Defense and how they were getting orders from above, and how people were negotiating with terrorists without his knowledge, and how there's a clash from this place to that place. And while all of this was going on, the first thing that stuck out to us was that we've had at least 2 kidnappings, and they were not people who were terrorists. They were young people who were going for NYSC, some other people on the road and things like that. And this is happening in Zamfara. What's the update on the security situation in Zamfara state? And is that synergy better between the state government and defense forces?
Well, we did say then, and we say now, that now and always the military seeks cooperation over conflict. And based on that, the state government and the defense headquarters have had discussions.
Okay, since then?
Yeah, since then.
Okay.
And based on the discussions, things are taking a better shape. And sooner than later, we will change the situation for the better.
So better collaboration?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take a trip now to something else, and it's got to do with schools. The Safe School Initiative, we're hearing the Chief of Defense Staff recently asking for better collaboration so that the Safe School Initiative can actually work. What would you tell us is the update on the Safe School Initiative in Nigeria, and what are the challenges that it is facing?
Well, for the Safe School Initiative, just last week, they had, will I call it an outreach or a kind of a conference or a workshop? This was held in Sokoto, in the Northwest, to sensitize all the stakeholders in the area on the need to protect the schools and the security forces. From the part of the security forces, we are there. This is our job. We're there. We're always there, but there are certain things that need to be done by other stakeholders. For schools, you may need to build fences. There are some things that need to be done. You may need to improve the road network to certain school and so on. So we kind of like sensitize the other stakeholders. Please do your part. We are up and ready as always to do our part. So so we've started from the Northwest. We'll move to other zones of the country and then get it up and running.
I mean, we're going to get back to the zones of the country where different theaters of war are being located right now, and to get the update on that. But stay with us here on Hard Copy. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We have been navigating Nigeria's security advances and how that translates to a safer country for the Nigerian with the Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba. Welcome back.
Nice to be here.
Let's talk more about the theaters of war. Which would you say is the most challenging? Because I've heard all kinds of names, Hadinkai, Whirl Stroke, and all these names. And someone explained how those names were created. It depends on the type of operation that is being done. They just have to listen very carefully. Which would you say is the most challenging of theaters?
Okay, so for over a decade now, we've been engaged in counter-terrorism and counter-insurgency operations in the country, beginning with the Northeast. And in this period of time, while we have decimated several of the terrorists in the course of our operations, sadly, in the course of those operations, we also have recorded casualties. You know, we have people that are maimed as a result of battle operations. We have people that are recovering as a result of operations. You know, and we have people that are suffering from PTSD, you know, because of the length of time, you know, and I continually give kudos to our men and women out there in the field that are sacrificing everything, you know, to make sure that our nation is in a better place in terms of security. I would say that we are actually in a state of war. It might not look like that in several parts of the country. It might not look like that here when you go out, people, you know, just moving around. But I tell you that even now, you know, there is an engagement, there's a firefight going on, and the likelihood that one of our troops may be killed in that or be maimed is there, you know. But I will also add that in this fight, each and every engagement that we've had, more often than not, has had more of the terrorists killed or them surrendering. You know, that speaks to the quality of our firefight that we have today. Now, back to which of the theaters of operation is more intense or something to that effect. I would say that when you look at what's happening in the Northeast, today, after 10 years, I will tell you for free that Boko Haram is a declining threat in the Northeast. Their motivations are very low, and we can see it from the surrendering that we have. We have over 100,000 that have surrendered and continually surrender even today.
Is the military part of the rehabilitation and reintegration program for these surrendered terrorists?
No, I think you may need to look towards the state government.
So is the state government that handles those reintegration?
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, I think it's the state government.
Yes, so you were saying.
Yeah. So now, in terms of intensity, the fact that they are a declining threat does not mean that they are not still active. Okay? Now, they are, in the Northeast, they are territorially defeated but active. What I mean by that is they are not holding any territories like it used to be back then. That is an indication of progress I'm sure you know that.
So those stories that we hear about how the terrorists, and these days, like, it's almost as though the threat has moved from terrorism to banditry to this business of kidnapping that we're dealing with right now. But we do hear stories about these people coming to share money to communities and things like that. Do you really have a hold of a community where someone is sharing money to them?
I will get to
even lead prayers in some of these places. We've seen these videos.
Yeah. I've said that we're involved in a complex military operations. And I've explained how the operation is complex, from the terrain to the assistance that the terrorists get from people and so on and so forth. But I think I need to explain further that while we are fighting simultaneously in different theaters across the country, we are fighting in different dimensions, meaning that we are fighting from the air, we are fighting from the waters, that's the sea, and we're also fighting from the land. And it might interest you that we are also fighting from the cyberspace. You just spoke about something that's from the cyberspace, okay? So it's not a war that you just fight just on the physical. There's the cyber dimension, okay? Now, who are we fighting? We are fighting an enemy that takes on different forms across the country. Very interesting, right? Now, if you go to the northeast, you say Boko Haram, you say ISWAP. Then you go to the northwest, somebody's going to start telling you that it's banditry. Then if you go to the north central, somebody will be telling you it's headers. I tell you for free today that they are all terrorists for us. Because as soon as they cross from one location to the other, some people want to recognize them as something else, but not terrorists. But they are terrorists for us. And and this is very serious for us, because when you compromise on security, you compromise everybody's security. We should not bring in politics or whatever into this. These are terrorists, period. With the military or our equipment or the financing, it largely depends on the people. And the people need to know this.
You talked about an international dimension.
Yeah.
And that made me think about the End Bad Governance protest.
Good.
And the hijack thereof.
Yeah.
Now, the international dimension that you talked about, did you see that come into play with the flying of Russian flags and things like that? And also to get your thoughts, really, because security experts have tried to explain what we saw during that End Bad Governance protest. And one of the things that they keep talking about is the fact that in that part of the world, and the countries around, they have seen the support of some international forces in the removal of democratic governance in those places, and could be buying into those ideas. Is that something that you ascribe to, that thought process you agree with? And what did you make? How did the military handle this situation?
I think we should be giving our flowers when it comes to what we said before the protest took place, because everything we said happened. I wouldn't want to say too much, but I would just say this, that look, we are learning every day as a people, as a nation, as a force, we're learning. And now we should know better how to conduct a peaceful protest. If you want to conduct a peaceful protest, you will give a date. Oh, I want to conduct a protest on so date. Apart from giving a date, giving a date is not sufficient. I will want to conduct this protest at so location. Give a venue. And if you're going to move from one location to another, we would like to have a procession from this location to another procession. Why are you doing all this? So that we, the security forces, can now come and assist you, give you the protection that you need to make sure that the protest is peaceful. But when you are doing it shadily, you are hiding, we don't even know who is doing it, so you are opening ground for hijackers to come in and hijack. And we saw all what happened at the end of the day.
And finally, before we let you go, let's talk a bit about the military's defense of democracy, because in the wake of the protest, what we saw was a lot of your boss, the chief of defense staff, and everybody from Mr. Ogala all the way down. everyone from the military and every security agent and agency came out to say, look, no, don't get this twisted. We are here to defend democracy. We are not in any way swayed to think of coming into power. No. We are here to defend democracy. Talk to us a bit about that stand and why it is that the Nigerian military and all the security agencies seem to be rallying around each other to insist on this.
Okay. When you define democracy, you cannot define democracy without mentioning people 3 times. That said, the military is a subset of the people. So, if we are a subset of the people, what is our role in the democracy? Our role in the democracy is to defend it and to protect it. This is our role in the people for the democracy.
I want to thank you so much.
Thank you.
Major General Edward Buba, for being with us on Hard Copy. And yes, you do deserve your flowers. Thank you for all the work that you do. And thanks to everyone who sacrifices so we can sleep. And our prayers are with every single military personnel in this country. Thank you so much for being with us on the program.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here always.
That's our show tonight, but the conversation continues online at channelstv.com. We love to hear from you. Thank you for watching. I am Kayla Magwa. Good night.